In the endless galaxy, filled with countless races and mighty civilizations, there was one species that no one feared, no one respected, and no one considered important. That species was humanity. Across alien star maps, Earth was nothing but a small blue world on the edge of known space. Reports written by alien scholars described humans as fragile, short-lived, and unremarkable. Their muscles were weak compared to the scaled warriors of Draconis. Their minds seemed dull when compared to the telepaths of Xyrion. Even their technology was considered primitive beside the shining fleets of the high empires. Whenever the great powers of the galaxy spoke of strength, courage, or destiny, they never included the name of mankind. To most aliens, humans were nothing more than background noise in the story of the stars, and yet in quiet places, whispers had begun to spread. A scout ship that had faced a human patrol returned half-destroyed, its captain muttering about humans, who fought even when bleeding and broken. A merchant convoy once laughed at humans for their stubborn trading habits until they saw how humans kept bargaining, refusing to give up even when they had nothing left to offer. Small stories, easy to ignore, but they planted a seed of doubt in the minds of a few who wondered, could it be that the reports were wrong? Still, the official records were clear. Humanity was weak. When the Galactic Council gathered, alien leaders mocked the idea of humans ever playing a role in war. One general from the Sorak Empire stood proudly and declared, "If a war begins, humans will be the first to fall. They are soft creatures. They cannot endure fire." The others laughed and nodded, believing it true. No one saw the storm that was coming. When the Great War finally began, it shook the galaxy to its core. Old empires clashed, alliances shattered, and ancient weapons returned to the battlefield. Species known for their strength gathered there. Fleets, believing they would decide the fate of the stars. In those first days, no one even thought of Earth. The humans were forgotten, assumed to be hiding in their fragile world, waiting for stronger races to decide their future. But they were wrong. Deadly wrong, for on Earth preparations had already begun. Human leaders, long aware of how aliens saw them, knew that their survival depended not on strength of body, but on strength of will. Across the planet, fleets were built in silence. Soldiers trained not with the hope of glory, but with the grim, understanding that they might one day be called to defend their very existence. Humanity did not seek war, but history had taught them one truth. If someone calls you weak, one day they will test you. And when that day comes, you must be ready. To prove them wrong, the galaxy laughed at humanity's fragility, but they had never seen a human after loss. They had never witnessed a mother who had lost her child fight with fire in her eyes. They had never seen soldiers who, even when cut down, refused to surrender. For humans had something no alien report could measure, the will to keep standing when everything was broken. And so, as the war spread closer and closer to Earth's borders, rumors grew. Alien spies who had infiltrated human colonies reported strange findings. Human ships were old, yet they moved with speed and precision that no one expected. Human weapons were simple, but they were used with terrifying creativity. A single human frigate once held back a fleet 3 times its size, using asteroid fields and clever traps to destroy its enemies one by one. The aliens dismissed it as luck, but deep inside, unease was building. The War Council of the Coalition gathered one night. Their spies brought reports, their generals presented battle maps, and once again, the humans were judged as weak. They would be easy prey, said the leaders. They would fall quickly, said the generals. But one voice rose from the shadows, a veteran commander who had fought in dozens of wars. He leaned forward, his scarred face grim, and said, "You see only their numbers, their weapons, their size. But I have seen their eyes. Do not underestimate them. They are not like us. When we fight, we seek victory. But when they fight, They seek survival, and survival can make the weakest race into monsters. His words were ignored. The council laughed and moved on, blind to the danger. And far away, in the quiet darkness of space, the human fleets prepared. The red banners of Earth were raised. Pilots checked their ships, soldiers held their rifles, and commanders studied their maps. They did not believe themselves to be the weakest. They believed in something else, something that could not be measured by alien reports. They believed in each other. The war was coming. The galaxy thought humanity would fall first, but soon they would learn a truth that would echo through the stars forever. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was terrifying. The war swept across the galaxy like a storm. Entire systems burned, fleets vanished into debris fields, and proud empires fell under the weight of new alliances. Yet even as the greatest civilizations fought, no one paid attention to Earth. Humanity was seen as too small, too weak, too unimportant to matter. The coalition of alien powers believed humans would surrender without a fight, but that belief was about to shatter. The first clash came at the edge of a mining colony in neutral space. A coalition fleet moved in to seize the resource world, expecting no resistance. Their ships were massive, sleek cruisers, and heavy dreadnoughts armed, with weapons forged by centuries of conquest. To them, it was a simple operation. The human presence on the colony was small, just a few defense ships and local militia. The alien commanders laughed when they saw the reports. "It will take an hour at most," one said confidently. But when the attack began, the humans fought like no species the coalition had ever faced. The first human frigate didn't retreat. It accelerated directly toward the largest alien cruiser, weapons firing wildly. Shields collapsed, and hulls cracked open as explosions shook the void. The aliens assumed it was desperation, but then something strange happened. The human ship used its own wreckage as cover. Pieces of broken metal drifted through space, confusing enemy sensors. Out of that chaos, another human ship appeared, striking from behind and crippling a destroyer. The battlefield became a maze of smoke, fire, and twisted steel, yet humans moved through it as if chaos was their natural element. On the surface of the colony, the story was the same. Human soldiers, outnumbered and outgunned, refused to fall back. They fought in ruined streets, turned collapsed buildings into fortresses, and used traps that caught their enemies by surprise. An alien officer ordered his troops forward, only to see them vanish in fire when humans detonated fuel lines hidden underground. Every inch of ground cost the coalition lives, and still the humans did not yield. For the first time, the coalition commanders felt something they had not expected: doubt. These weak humans were not breaking, they were not fleeing. They were turning the very battlefield into a weapon. Reports from the skirmish spread quickly. Alien soldiers described human fighters who crawled through smoke with fire in their eyes, refusing to die even when wounded. Pilots spoke of human ships that moved with reckless bravery, striking at impossible angles. One alien gunner swore he saw a human captain smile as his ship went down, crashing into an enemy vessel and destroying both in a blaze of fire. The coalition dismissed it as exaggeration at first. But the data was clear. Human losses were heavy, yes, but so were theirs. Against all odds, the humans had held the colony. The galaxy began to whisper. Stories of the battle reached distant systems. Some called it luck, others called it madness, but a few began to see the truth. Humanity had revealed something the coalition did not understand: a will to fight beyond reason, beyond fear. Inside the human fleet, however, there was no celebration. The soldiers buried their dead and repaired their broken ships in silence. They knew this was only the beginning. If the coalition had underestimated them once, they would come again. This time stronger, this time prepared, and humanity would need to rise even higher. The Alien Council met to discuss the strange outcome. Generals pounded the table, demanding answers. "How can this be?" one roared. "They were supposed to fall in hours." Another sneered. "They are desperate animals, nothing more. Desperation cannot win wars." But the scarred commander, who had once warned them, spoke again. His voice was low, steady, but filled with certainty. "You do not see it. This was not desperation. This was instinct. When cornered, these humans become something else. Something we should fear." Again his warning was ignored. Again the council chose arrogance, but the seeds of fear had been planted. On Earth, the news of the first clash spread like wildfire. Families wept for their fallen, but pride filled their hearts. For the first time, humanity had stood against the galaxy's might and survived. Across cities, banners were raised, speeches were given, and a single message echoed in every ear. "We are not weak, we are ready." The galaxy had seen the first spark of humanity's fury, but what came next would turn that spark into a firestorm no one could control. The galaxy tried to dismiss the first human victories as nothing more than chance. Some alien admirals claimed the humans had been lucky. Others argued the coalition commanders had been careless, but no one could ignore the growing reports. Every battle where humans appeared turned into something strange, something that defied the usual rules of war. Normally, when a fleet was outnumbered, it retreated. When soldiers faced overwhelming firepower, they surrendered. That was the way of the galaxy. Survival was more important than pride. But humans did not follow this pattern. Even when hopelessly outnumbered, they fought on. Even when wounded and cornered, they kept striking. To many alien minds, it was madness. But to those who faced humans directly, it was terror. On the world of Draxa 4, a coalition legion landed with the intent to wipe out a small human garrison. The alien commander promised his troops an easy victory, saying the battle would be over before nightfall. Yet as the hours passed, the humans refused to break. They fought from shadows, moved silently through forests, and struck with ambushes. So clever that alien soldiers began to fear every sound in the dark. One alien survivor later confessed, "It was not like fighting soldiers, it was like being hunted by predators." The coalition eventually took the planet, but the cost was staggering. Entire units had been shattered, and whispers spread that the humans had fought like demons, their eyes glowing with fire, their screams echoing even as they fell. The truth was simpler. Humans were not stronger in body, nor superior in weapons. What they had was something far rarer, the will to keep fighting when others would already have given up. Alien scientists tried to explain it. They studied human prisoners, measuring their pain tolerance, their endurance, their strange ability to adapt under pressure. The results shocked them. A human body, though fragile compared to armored species, could survive injuries that would kill others. Their blood clotted faster, their muscles rebuilt under stress, and their minds, most terrifying of all, became sharper in moments of danger. Where other species panicked, humans became calm, almost cold, making decisions that turned the tide of battles. On the front lines, this truth was being written in fire. A single human squad once held a mountain pass against 3 enemy battalions. For days they fought, setting traps, using the terrain, and forcing the aliens into narrow choke points. When the pass was finally taken, the coalition discovered that every human had fallen, but so had thousands of their own. The bodies of the defenders were found still clutching their weapons, defiance frozen on their faces. One alien officer whispered in horror, "If this is weakness, then I pray we never see their strength." Stories like these spread faster than fire across dry grass. At first, alien civilians refused to believe them, but soldiers returning from the front carried haunted eyes and trembling voices. They spoke of human pilots who rammed their burning ships into enemy cruisers, destroying vessels far larger than their own. They told tales of human soldiers who, even when captured and chained, found ways to kill their guards and escape. They described human commanders who turned hopeless defeats into shocking victories with cunning traps and fearless charges. The galaxy began to realize something terrifying. Humans were not fighting for conquest nor for glory. They were fighting for survival, and that made them unstoppable. In the Coalition War Council, fear crept into the chambers. The scarred veteran spoke once more. His voice carried the weight of countless battles. You cannot break them. You cannot frighten them. They will crawl through fire, swim through blood, and rise again no matter how many you cut down. You think them weak. But I tell you this, they are death-worlders. Their home is a planet of storms, hunger, and predators. Every day they fight to live. Do you not see? War is in their nature. The other leaders shifted uncomfortably. Some laughed nervously, others shouted in denial. But deep down, they knew the truth. For the first time in ages, the Coalition had found an enemy that could not be tamed. Back on Earth, humanity did not see themselves as terrifying. They saw themselves as desperate, as survivors fighting to protect their families and their home. Yet that very desperation gave them a strength the galaxy had never witnessed. Across the skies, alien soldiers now whispered before battle, "Beware the humans, they do not stop." The war was no longer about borders or resources. It had become something greater. The galaxy had unleashed a storm, and now it was too late to turn back. Humanity had shown its terrifying truth, and soon the stars themselves would tremble at their name. The Coalition believed it had seen everything humanity could offer. Skirmishes, ambushes, and desperate defenses had shown their will. But the great empires still thought of it as resistance destined to burn out. To them, humans were only prolonging the inevitable. But then came the assault on Earth itself, the moment the galaxy would never forget. The largest fleet ever assembled darkened the skies around Sol. Hundreds of alien ships, their hulls glowing with the symbols of countless empires, converged on the homeworld of humanity. Their leaders wanted to end the war in one decisive strike. If Earth fell, the human spirit would finally be broken. Alien generals boasted that it would take only a few days to crush this fragile blue planet. But when their ships arrived, they were met with silence. Earth's defenses looked thin. A few orbital platforms, a handful of patrol fleets, and scattered outposts. The alien commanders laughed at the weakness they saw. Yet hidden behind that silence, humanity had prepared something the galaxy had never dreamed of. The first volley of enemy fire lit up the void, raining destruction toward Earth's defenses. The alien fleet pressed forward, confident. But then, from behind the shadow of the moon, massive shapes emerged. Human warships unlike any seen before, colossal vessels bristling with weapons, their armor blackened with stealth coatings, their engines burning with fierce red light. These were the Sovereign-class destroyers, Earth's hidden giants. For years, they had been built in secret, deep in underground docks and concealed shipyards, and now they rose to greet the galaxy. The alien fleet paused in shock. Sensors struggled to measure the sudden surge of power. Then the first human volley struck. Railguns thundered, hurling projectiles faster than light. Missile swarms filled the void like a storm of fireflies, weaving through defenses to strike with pinpoint precision. Alien shields crumbled, hulls split apart, and ships that once commanded respect fell silent in burning wrecks. But the most terrifying sight was not the weapons, it was the humans themselves. Their voices filled comms with calm, steady commands, even as battles raged around them. Pilots maneuvered their ships with reckless brilliance, diving into impossible angles, cutting through the enemy like blades through glass. Ground forces launched counterattacks on captured moons and stations, reclaiming them with brutal efficiency. What the galaxy saw that day was not a weak race clinging to survival. It was a predator, finally showing its fangs. On the ground, civilians of Earth looked up into the night sky and saw fire streaking across the stars. Many thought it was the end, but then they realized it was the beginning of something greater. Humanity had unleashed its true power, and the galaxy would never be the same. Alien admirals tried to rally their forces, barking orders, demanding formation. But the humans did not fight in the patterns the galaxy understood. They adapted in seconds, striking where the enemy was weakest, pulling them into traps, turning confusion into slaughter. One alien dreadnought, larger than any human ship, advanced with confidence, until 3 smaller human frigates circled it like wolves, striking again and again until its core exploded in a blinding light. The coalition began to falter. Panic spread through their ranks. Ships that had mocked the idea of human power now fled in terror. For the first time in centuries, the mighty galactic powers felt fear, not of each other, but of humanity. And still, the humans pressed forward. They were not fighting for conquest. They were not fighting for glory. They were fighting for survival, for their families, for the right to exist among the stars. And that gave them strength beyond measure. The scarred veteran, watching from the Council's secure chamber, rose to his feet. His eyes were fixed on the burning holoscreen, showing Earth's defense. His voice was quiet, almost reverent. "I warned you," he whispered. "This is no weak race. This is humanity unleashed." In the chaos of that battle, a message spread. Across every alien fleet, do not underestimate Earth. Do not underestimate the humans. It echoed from soldier to soldier, captain to captain, until it became more than a warning. It became a truth carved into fear. When the last enemy ship retreated, limping away with shattered hulls and broken pride, the battlefield was left in silence. The void was littered with debris, fire, and the drifting wrecks of fleets that had once believed themselves invincible. And in the center of it all, Earth remained, scarred but unbroken, its people standing taller than ever. The galaxy had seen the truth. Humanity was not fragile. Humanity was not helpless. Humanity was a storm that no empire could contain. And now, with the war still raging, everyone knew the coalition had made the gravest mistake in history. By underestimating humans, they had awakened something terrifying, and this was only the beginning. When the war for Earth ended, the galaxy fell into silence. For days, no council met, no empire spoke, and no fleet dared to move near Sol. The wreckage of the coalition's grand armada drifted across the stars, a graveyard of once proud ships, now broken and burning. What was meant to be humanity's destruction had become humanity's triumph. Survivors of the alien fleets returned home in shame. They carried with them stories that spread faster than fire. They told of human warships, rising like ghosts from the shadows of the moon. They told of commanders who fought with cold calculation and soldiers who bled but never broke. They spoke of the skies over Earth, lit by storms of missiles and beams of fire, where human ships danced through chaos as if born for war. Some refused to speak at all, their eyes haunted, their voices trembling at the memory. At first, the galaxy did not believe them. How could the weakest race do this? How could fragile humans who lived barely a century defeat fleets that had crushed worlds? But the evidence was there, carved into the debris of battlefields, written in the reports of shattered armies. It could not be denied any longer. Humanity had proven itself, and it had done so in a way that shook the galaxy to its core. In the great halls of the coalition, silence replaced arrogance. The same generals who once laughed at Earth now sat in shame. They had mocked humanity's fragility, but fragility had become resilience. They had mocked humanity's short lives, but short lives had burned brighter, fiercer, with a passion no ancient empire could match. They had mocked humanity's weakness, but weakness had become the very fuel of their strength, and in that silence, fear was born. The scarred veteran, who had warned them again and again, finally spoke the words that echoed through the chamber. We thought them weak because we did not understand. They are not like us. They are not bound by fear, not broken by loss. Every wound makes them stronger. Every defeat makes them sharper. They are not weak. They are terrifying. From that day onward, humanity's name carried weight it had never held before. Once dismissed as insignificant, now every empire whispered their name with caution. Diplomatic envoys traveled to Earth, not to mock, but to bow their heads in respect. Traders who once cheated humans now offered them fair deals, afraid of awakening their wrath. And alien children in faraway worlds grew up hearing bedtime warnings. Do not anger the humans, they never forget, but among humans there was no boasting. Earth did not sing songs of conquest or carve monuments of domination. Instead, they buried their dead with quiet honor. Families mourned, cities rebuilt, and leaders reminded their people of a simple truth. They had not fought to prove strength. They had fought to survive. Humanity's pride was not in victory, but in unity, and yet their legacy was undeniable. Across the galaxy, the image of humans had changed forever. No longer the weakest race, they were now seen as the one race no empire could afford to underestimate. Humanity had revealed its heart, its fury, and its terrifying willpower, and the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath, waiting to see what humans would do next. Years later, when alien historians wrote of the war, they did not describe it as the rise of Earth. They described it as the awakening of a storm. They called it the terrifying legacy, and in their words was both awe and fear. For they knew that in humanity's shadow a new age had begun, and so the story spread, not just in records, but in whispers. The weakest race had stood against the galaxy. The weakest race had bled, but never broken. The weakest race had unleashed a terror none could match. And from that day, the galaxy would never again call humanity weak, for the humans had proven the truth. Weakness was only the beginning. And in the fires of war, they had become something far greater, something terrifying.